ETA. So, we would like to ask you for your thoughts on the announcement of the Spanish terrorist group ETA to stop violence a few days ago. Beyond the political or strategic implications in the specific Spanish or even European scenario, our question is focused on your opinion about society and citizenship. How do you think we will resolve this conflict? Will Spanish people be able to rise to the circumstances to make things progress? Will they forgive in order to achieve the future in peace? The banned victims, widows, family members, are asking these days please not to forget. They demand for the weapons delivered to the authorities, as IRA did in Ireland, and that the terrorist group, together with their supporters, apologize in public for the crimes committed along 43 years.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't want to, I don't think it makes much sense to try to speculate about what is going to happen. What matters is affecting what's going to happen. We can't speculate about human affairs. There's too much variation, too much depends on will and choice, individual commitment, all sorts of things. The predictions about human affairs are pretty unsuccessful by and large. As far as apologies go, they're due all around. ETA came out of repression and persecution, not out of nothing. That's why it happened in the Basque Country and not somewhere else. They did things that, yes, they shouldn't have done, should apologize for. But the repressive system out of which they grew and developed also has things to apologize for. Actually, that's what happened in Northern Ireland. What happened in Northern Ireland is rather instructive. IRA terror was pretty serious. It came close to killing all the British cabinet at one point. But it was very serious terror. And Britain responded to it for a long time by just more repression. And that escalated the cycle of violence. IRA then turned to more violence. Actually, I was in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, in 1993 with human rights activists traveling around, and I actually met an underground IRA member, IRA hitman, who had escaped from jail, and he was underground. We met in some kind of safe house. And I spent a couple hours just asking him, basically, what are you trying to achieve? And he said, nothing. I mean, they killed my cousin, I'm going to kill their uncle, and they'll kill my grandfather, and I'll go on, and that's what we're going to do. A couple of years later, this guy was on the negotiating team. I think he's now in the government. Finally, what happened finally is that it was very brutal, bitter. I mean, in Belfast, it was like a war zone. You couldn't park a car without having to open the trunk so they could inspect. People were afraid to go from east to west Belfast. Actually, I was there again just last year, and it's like any city. There are tensions, there's some neighborhoods where you can see other people aren't wanted. There's the kind of ethnic tensions, there's religious that you get in cities generally, but it wasn't different from other cities where I've been. Well, what happened is that Britain finally, instead of responding to terror with more terror and repression, they began to ask themselves, what's it coming from? What are the grievances? And there were legitimate grievances. There was substantial repression of the Catholic population. When they began to attend to the grievances, the terror reduced. You began to get interactions, negotiations, like what I just described, and it transferred in not many years from a war zone to a place with conflicts, but not violent ones.
So could we credit that shift of change, that shift of English UK government to IRA?
Well, every situation's different, but I think the general model is correct. The same with the so-called war on terror. I mean, if you respond to terror by more violence, that's just a gift to the vanguard of the terrorist groups. That's what they want. It helps mobilize people to their cause. if you ask yourself, what are the causes of what lies behind it? It's almost never coming from nowhere. It's usually coming from reasons, often serious grievances. Grievances are often legitimate, as they were in the case of the Basque Country. And if you start dealing sympathetically and constructively with grievances, the support for violent action erodes, and pretty soon you get settlements. Actually, as far as I understand, that's pretty much what happened in the Basque Country. Mm-hmm. And as for looking back and apologies, plenty of room on all sides, but there should be moves towards reconciliation, integration, developing satisfactory relationships. Spain is a complicated place. There's a lot of local. The regions are different from one another, different languages, different customs, and I think that's very healthy. If you go down to, I was in Barcelona a couple of years. I was in Barcelona right after the fall of Franco, and you didn't hear a word of Catalan walking around the streets. And it was, Franco was gone, but the repressive apparatus was there. And just the fear, the mood, of being repressed. I was there, I don't know, 10 years later, and everything was Catalan. I happened to be in a hotel near the downtown square, and on Sunday morning people were streaming toward the square, musicians on the cathedral steps doing folk dances, lively, exciting environment. It's reviving. It was always there, but it's openly reviving traditional cultures, languages, and it just enriches the whole society. If it leads to tensions and problems, like maybe Spanish workers were mistreated, I don't know, some claim. But there can be problems, but human life has a varied, complex nature, and that's probably part of its liveliness and excitement. If everyone was the same, we'd want to commit suicide. It would just be too intolerable.